Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of the Dr. Amma series. I am so excited to jump into this topic. We hope that you enjoyed the last episode on Black History Month. Listen, it does not have to be February in order for you to continue to watch and share that episode. It is packed with so many good information that's good for any Heritage Month. And speaking of Heritage Month, it is Women's History Month in March. And I'm actually recording this on International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day to all women. It's so important to emphasize all women when we understand that womanhood is at the intersections of so many other identities. We realize the need to focus on those other identities as well so that we can all flourish. So happy Women's History Month and happy International Women's Day. What I want to talk about today for this episode is advocacy, how we can help our children understand how they can understand and learn more about people who are different than them and then advocate for them, maybe even themselves, but also be able to advocate for other children. And I think the important way to start this process or this conversation around advocacy is understanding that everyone does not get the same spotlight, the same shine, and they're not viewed the same way because of identity. So a story really spearheaded and sparked this episode from one of my children. They are learning about the ocean, the power of the ocean, and she came downstairs and was just like, ocean fun fact. And I was like, okay. And she talked about the importance of krill. You know, the little fish that whales eat. There are billions and billions of krill in the ocean. And so she comes downstairs and she's like, do you know that there are more krill in the ocean than whales? Like without krill, the entire ocean, like food chain and the ecosystem of the ocean would not function properly. And I thought that this would be a great learning moment for her that I wanted to bring into this episode because we were really able to use this krill and whale metaphor as a learning moment for advocacy. And so this is what I told her. I said, let's think for a minute how small the krill is, right? And quite honestly, if I'm being honest, it took Finding Nemo, the piece from Finding Nemo, for me to know about krill. Okay, when the whale is coming and they get swallowed by the whale, and the krill are like, "Swim away!" It really took Finding Nemo. So like, I didn't even know that much about krill before the movie. I said, let's take this as a metaphor. The krill are so small. When we are watching documentaries or films, or when we're talking about the ocean, when people go to the beach, they're more likely talking about the whales. Let's go whale watching. Oh, the whales are so big. Oh, the whales are so beautiful. Oh, they're mammals like us. The whales are just so the main point of the conversation. The whales are centered in kind of how we think about ocean life. Nobody's really talking about the krill. No one's like, let's learn more about krill. Let's do a movie on krill. When we go to the beach, I'm interested in krill watching. No one ever says that, right? We're more focused on the whale. And what I had to let her know is just like the krill are vital to the ecosystem of the ocean, we are vital, we as humans are vital into the ways in which society functions. And oftentimes, if we're honest, there are certain identity groups or certain individuals that over time have been made to be put in the spotlight. They are the whales in the scenario, if you will, right? We see them on social media. We've seen them in movies and on TV for a very long time. We have learned about their stories. We have learned about their history. We have It's not uncommon for us to see them in books and in paintings. Over time, it becomes normal to see these identity groups in the spotlight. And the identity groups that are oftentimes on the spotlight are the identity groups that have held power over time. Identity groups that in society there is a societal advantage or a societal privilege, right? We have seen their group as norm. And this kind of represents the well. But what about the Creole? There are so many identity groups that we hold that do not get the spotlight, whose histories we don't know enough about. We don't get to see them that much over time in movies, in books, in history. We're not taught their lessons. We're not taught their stories. So it really makes the Creole feel like, wow, I kind of never am seen. But the reality is that people, and those identity groups are oftentimes identity groups that have been marginalized over time, that are vulnerable populations, right? That they have had to really fight against injustices for decades, for centuries. And oftentimes their stories are never told. But just like the Creole, it is important, it is vital that society runs off of those people. It is hard for society to run and function without everyday people who do things like collect garbage, who do things like clean homes, who do things like make sure our children get to school. It's really hard for society to function without the postal service, us getting our mail every day. It's hard for society to function for people who are working with materials and food and factory that we don't even think about. We just go to the store, pick it up and eat it. It's really hard for the world to function without farming and agriculture. And majority of those times, or those people or those industries are not often being spotlighted. So what does it mean when our children are going to school holding some of these identities that represent Creole? What does it happen when they may see other people at school people are just walking past them, not paying them any attention, but they're so important to the makeup of that school? This is where advocacy comes in. Advocacy is the practice of standing up for or putting into practice action so that people who are underserved can be seen, valued, respected, and in this case, kind of in the metaphor that we're using, be seen as the importance of them to be seen as large as the well. Advocacy is what we can do, even children can do, to make sure that their friends or the people in their school or people in their community who may not look like them or who may look like them are not being swept under the rug. So here are 3 ways that we can practice and talk about advocacy with our children. 1, share the example of the krill and the whale. Use that as a metaphor for children to understand that there are some people, it could be even us, right? Could we even be the child that you're speaking to? That because of the ways in the society is made up and because of their identities, they may not always have the spotlight and they may not always be treated the best because of who they are. And 2, what you can then do to talk about what that does for them is you can then open up a conversation around feeling. How would it feel to be the Creole in this situation? What can we do? And open the floor to them. What could we do to ensure that our friends and the people at our school or the people that we know, and even for ourselves, self-advocacy, what can we do to maybe make them feel better, give them a voice, help them be seen? Some things that have come up in our conversation is simply just saying hi. A lot of children are navigating spaces and no one is even paying them any attention. They're not even greeting them. Advocacy starts by making someone who may feel invisible visible. Greetings. Hi there. How you doing? Good morning. What class are you on your way to? What are you doing after school? What is your name? These are simple ways that we can start the advocacy process. So have this open conversation with your child as the second step to see kind of how they feel understanding this krill and whale metaphor, and what are some things that they may want to do to start the process of making someone feel better. And the third thing that you can do to kind of start advocacy, the practice, or continue the practice of advocacy for your children, is that you can also allow them to also not be bystanders if they see that someone is having a hard time with another person. We may more formally know this as some forms of bullying. That's going to be another episode, but we are really starting to get to what we call the bystander effect. You may be familiar with it, and the bystander effect says if you don't say anything, when you see something that's wrong, you become a bystander. And a lot of times we just sit and we just watch and we say nothing. Even if we feel that it's wrong, we just stand there. We just watch it happen. And the more that we stand there, the more that we're silent, the more that we don't do anything about it, the more that that type of action will occur. So the third thing that we can do is to help our children to not be bystanders. If they see someone in their community who is not being treated well because of who they are, or if they see someone who's always getting the attention, who the spotlight is always on, say something either to that person, to a teacher, to a coach, to a family member, because they may feel that something's not right there. Even if they don't know what exactly to say, they can simply start by saying, hey, that doesn't seem nice, or hey, something doesn't seem right here. That starts to disrupt the behavior so that people can start to change their behavior. Advocacy is so powerful in our everyday community. And not only can we do it as adults, our children can do it as well. And it helps them to be kind to each other so that we all can feel visible and we can all feel like we are the well. If this content was helpful, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you share it as well. And I cannot wait to see you on the next episode.